Aloha. Welcome, board members and manager and everyone else to this regular meeting of the Board of Water Supply. Today is February 28th, 2022. My name is Brian Andaya, and I'd like to take a moment to take a roll call of board members. When I call your name, please say aye, here, or present. Vice Chair Kapua Spro.
Aye.
Board member Ray Soon. Here. Board member Max Sword.
Here.
Board member Naalehu Anthony.
Here.
Board member Jade Butai.
Present, Chair.
And board member Don Suchik.
Present.
All right, welcome everybody. So in accordance with the new law that went into effect, we do have some board members here in the boardroom. That would be members Soon and Sword, Vice Chair Sprout, as well as members Anthony and Shusek and Butai are remote. If you're calling in or video conferencing in, please take a moment to mute your mic when you're not speaking. If you have a question or comment or wish to enter a motion or second a motion on an action item, and want to applaud or thumbs up or thumbs down, please unmute your microphone and identify yourself before continuing to speak. Also in the room with us, our manager, Ernest Lau, and Board Secretary Deanna Tyson. Joining on WebEx to monitor public testimony is Ms. Tracy Burgo, Information Specialist 2 from our Communications Office. Also joining us by telephone conference or WebEx are attorneys Jeff Lau and Jessica Wong, both from the City and County Corporation Counsel Department. So before beginning today's meeting, I'd like to state that this board is dedicated to providing safe, dependable, and affordable supply of water now and into the future. The following procedures are in effect for this meeting. Board members attending in person are recommended to be fully vaccinated. Anyone physically attending the meeting is required to wear a mask with 2 or more layers, which should be worn over your nose and mouth at all times and to remain 6 feet apart. Testimony can be submitted as follows. The deadlines for written testimony and mail testimony, as well as online testimony, expired at noon, but you can still submit them in writing at either our website at boardofwatersupply.com. That's spelled out again, boardofwatersupply.com, spelled out completely. You could mail them into 630 South Beretania Street. Unfortunately, we'll not be taking in-person testimony at this time because of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, we are still accepting telephone testimony. If there is anyone who would like to testify via telephone, the number is 808-748-6040. Again, that number is 808-748-6040. When you call in, please listen for further instructions. Materials are available for this meeting or the board packet defined under HRS section 92-7.5 are accessible on our website www.boardofwatersupply.com/board meetings spelled out. This meeting is also viewable via live streaming on our website boardofwatersupply.com/live. Without further ado, we do have 5 items on our agenda requiring board action.
Brian, this is Jessica speaking.
Yes.
I just want a little reminder about the new laws that went into place that the board members calling in remotely have to disclose if there's anyone at their location and that they should all be visible, or at least a quorum of them should be visible if calling in or remotely attending.
Okay, so let's see. I do, for the record, will note that I can see members Anthony, Vice Chair Sproat, and Butai, all looking fantastic. Um, and also, members, could you please disclose whether you have anyone else in the room with you at this time?
I'm here by myself. My door is closed.
Thank you, Member Butai.
And Vice Chair Sproat, I am also in my room and the door is closed. I'm alone.
Thank you, noted for the record.
Aloha, this is Na'alahu, and there's no one in the room.
All right, noted for the record. All right, given that we have a quorum, we will proceed.
Dawn, if there's anybody in the room with Dawn.
Yeah, hi Chair. This is Dawn. I'm actually in a vehicle right now, and my acting deputy Warren Mamizuka is in the car with me right now. He's the one driving.
Okay, noted for the record.
Do it
Thank
safely.
you. Drive safely. All right, let's go down the agenda then. Item number 1 is for the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held on January 24th, 2022. May I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Okay, it's been moved by
Second.
Member Maxwell.
Jade,
Oh, I'm sorry, very soon. And seconded by Member Jade Butai. Is there any discussion or corrections to the minutes that were distributed? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 I wasn't here with the chair.
Okay, I note abstention from Member Max Sword. And is there anyone in opposition? Hearing none, the approval of the minutes is passed, and we have therefore adopted minutes of the regular meeting held on January 24th, 2022. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of resolution number 934, 2022. This is the acceptance of a gift to the Board of Water Supply from Hardware Hawaii, or HH Holdings Incorporated, for Detect a Leak Leak. Chair recognizes Ms. Kathleen Elliott Pahinui.
Mahalo, Chair. Mahalo, board members, manager, and deputy. The Communications Office recommends the acceptance of the proposed gift to the Board of Water Supply, City and County of Honolulu from Hardware Hawaii of 5,000 toilet leak detection dye tablets valued at $515.50 in support of our annual Detect a Leak Week campaign. Detect a Leak Week will be observed from April 10th, 2022 through April 16th, 2022. The goal is to raise awareness, encourage the public to conserve water by detecting and repairing leaks. According to the United States Environmental Protection Agency, minor water leaks caused from running toilets, dripping faucets, and other household leaks account for more than 1 trillion gallons of water wasted each year across the U.S. Even small leaks can create a significant amount of waste, costing customers money. One of the most common leaks are found in toilets. An older, worn-out flapper can build up minerals or decay over time. Replacing them is relatively easy, quick, and inexpensive. During Detect a Leak Week, the public can pick up toilet leak detection dye tablets at any Hardware Hawaii store, Satellite City Hall location, or the lobby of the BWS's Public Service Building at 630 South Baratania Street. We greatly appreciate the continued participation and commitment of our community partners and customers who support this very worthwhile program, which encourages all customers to embrace their role as responsible stewards of our precious water resource. Mahalo.
Thank you very much, Ms. Elliott Pahinui. Members, are there any questions? Hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to ratify or to
So moved.
accept.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by members Sword and Soon respectively. This is for adoption of resolution number 934, 2022, acceptance of a gift from Hardware Hawaii, specifically as noted in the resolution itself, which I will incorporate into the record attached to today's agenda. 5,000 toilet leak detection dye tablets valued at $515.50 in support of our 2022 Detect a Leak Week campaign. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Okay, it's been moved and it's been approved that we have adopted resolution number 935, 2022. I'm sorry, 934, 2022. Ms. Elliot Pahinui, please express our thank you and gratitude to Hardware Hawaii.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Board.
Right, next item is the adoption of resolution number 935, 2022. This is also an acceptance of a gift to the Board of Water Supply from various donors in support of the 2022 Water Conservation Week program. Chair recognizes Ms. Kathleen Elliott Pahinui.
Mahalo, Chair, Board members. We recommend the adoption of attached resolution number 935, 2022 that accepts proposed gifts to the Board of Water Supply, City and County of Honolulu in support of our 2022 Water Conservation Week program. Monetary and in-kind gifts from the donors total to $11,500. The donors are Friends of Halava Xeriscape Garden, $2,000. Sodexco, $2,000. Hawaiian Financial Federal Credit Union, $2,000. Aloha Pacific Federal Credit Union, $2,000. Times Supermarkets, $1,000. Alexander and Baldwin, $1,000. Hawaii Energy, $1,000. And Pesha Hawaii, $500. The successful and well-established education outreach program is in its 43rd year of existence. It engages students kindergarten through 12 and promotes water conservation learning through poster and poetry contests. It instills in participating students the value of water and the need to be water efficient as, together, everyone in our community contributes to the larger island-wide commitment to a sustainable water future. Through this program, BWS hopes to motivate more customers to adopt water conservation behaviors. Sponsor gifts will help the Board of Water Supply offset program costs through the printing of 15,000 2023 water conservation calendars that feature the winning entries from the 2022 contests, as well as an award ceremony for place winners and honorable mentions. The calendars are distributed to all Oahu schools, elected officials, and the public. We deeply appreciate the board's continued support of this valuable program. Mahalo.
Thank you very much, Ms. Elliott Pahinui. Members, any questions or comments? I just want to make a remark. Kathleen, please express after we pass the resolution, please express our gratitude to all of these generous donors, especially now in this time where our capacity is reduced. The importance of conservation is more important now than ever. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve, please?
So.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by member Sword and seconded by member Shusik. This is for resolution number 935, 2022. There is a list of generous donors here. In-kind and monetary gifts totaling $11,500 in support of the 2022 Water Conservation Week program. All those in,
Before we vote,
yes,
can I request from the communications division and our leaders there, some metrics the next time we meet around this program, how many people, kids participate, and how many, is there a trend of increase or decrease over time? I would appreciate that. Be glad to
Well,
provide.
if I may, Chair, I can actually answer some of that now, if I could.
Okay,
Generally, we've averaged around 1,200 to 1,500 poster entries. The first year where we experienced COVID, we did see a dramatic drop for obvious reasons. Many of the schools were closed, but we actually still got entries and we were able to produce our 2022 calendar or 2021 calendar. Poetry has been steadily increasing, and at its height, we received about 800, almost 900 entries. Again, it's been down a little bit, but we saw an increase again in 2021 from 2020, and we are currently collecting poetry and posters as we speak. We do report these numbers to the city as part of our annual achievements that they ask from us as well.
Board member soon, we, at maybe next meeting or a future meeting on this, will provide an update on the metrics year by year.
another question for Ms. Pinelli. I know you do a survey from time to time regarding attitudes of the public
Right.
towards the work that we do. I guess I'm just wondering, is there a nexus here between what we've been doing for 20 some odd years, as you report, and what the results of those surveys are? It's probably a long, distant connection, but I'm just wondering.
Well, it's primarily anecdotal. I mean, you know, we do know people pay attention to it. I can tell you that it is extremely popular. We get a lot of requests for it. And we actually have people that come up to us year over year that tell us like, wow, my child won your contest 10 years ago. And, you know, and it does make an impact. And we know that this is a good way for us to get the kids when they're young. When you go after the young people, it instills those values into them. And actually, they are good stewards to educate their parents as well.
Kathleen, I think reporting this to us, this is great. It helps us justify why we continue to put our time and effort into it, and why these donators continue to donate. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. And just a real quick, I just remember when we do our updates every year to the board on our conservation programs, Lorna and I, we actually do report the numbers for the previous year's contest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, one more thing that's, since we are talking about it, as far as the conservation program, it would be, I'm not sure when that annual update is, but it would be good to get an overall update on the conservation program, not just in regards to the Water Conservation Week, but overall, given the situation that we're in with reduced capacity.
We'd be glad to do that in an upcoming meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm gonna call for the question then. All those in favor adopting resolution number 935/2022, please say aye.
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 Okay, is there anyone opposed? Please say nay. Okay, hearing none, the motion carries unanimously, and we are adopting resolution number 935/2022 regarding the acceptance of gifts from various donors in support of our Water Conservation Week. All right, next item is resolution number 936/2022. This authorizes up to $200 million principal amount of Series 2022 bonds. Chair recognizes Mr. Joseph Cooper.
Good afternoon, Chair Andaya, board members. We recommend the adoption and approval of Resolution 936/2022, which authorizes and approves the issuance by the Board of Water Supply at one time of not to exceed $200 million principal amount of revenue bonds. The purpose of these Series 2022 bonds that are being issued to pay the cost of improvements authorized in the capital budget of the board, to pay the cost of the issuance of the Series 2022 bonds, and to fund a trust fund to provide for refunding and redemption of all or a portion of the board's revenue bond series 2014A and 2014B. The bonds shall be on terms and conditions as the board determines to be necessary and advisable. And I'll be happy to answer any questions or take comments.
Members, any questions?
Mr. Chair, I just have one question.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Mr. Cooper, later in the presentation, in this meeting, when we go over the financial update, there's a slide in there that has just what the expenditures look like every year, and debt service is currently at about $15 million for this last year, about 15% of the operating expenditures. And I know we've gone over this before in the past when we were talking about last year's bond issuance. And I'm just wondering if you have the data as to what our debt service looks like in coming years based on the rate of bonds being issued to cover the construction that we need to be doing to keep our water supply safe and efficient.
Okay. Yes, we do. I can look for that, and I'll try to have something available in my next financial presentation. We do have a financial model. Actually, it was since we just published the POS, I think earlier today. It does give a projection of what the debt service coverage will be, and I'll look that up and share that with you at the next meeting or at later in this meeting.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Kind of related to this, I just wanted to say that we just received the publication of our ratings. So last week, both Joe and I and a number of our staff from the Board of Water Supply, our team here, we actually had rating presentation to two rating agencies, S&P and Fitch. And Fitch, S&P just released their rating for us today. And I'm glad to report that they maintain our AAA rating with a stable outlook. So we can be, I think, board members, you can be very proud of yourselves and the leadership you provide, and the BWS team, that in spite of the situations and challenges we face right now, they reaffirmed their previous rating to us, and maintaining their AAA rating with a stable outlook. So mahalo. And congratulations, Joe.
Great. Hey, Joe, can you explain to me this trust fund? Is it something brand new and or has it always been there and I've just not been aware?
Yeah, well, I guess it's not a fund that we maintain internally. We establish a trust fund and escrow account with U.S. Bank, National Bank Association, to provide money for the refunded bonds. So theoretically, or in actuality, we will select, depending on the interest rate, we will select the 2014 A and B bonds that it makes sense. There's a net present value to refund. We will issue bonds in an amount to cover that refunding period, and then we will deposit those funds in with, like I said, the escrow agent, paying agent with U.S. National Bank Association.
And how much of the 2014 bonds are you looking to retire?
I think we've identified $54 million in bonds to retire. And again, that will depend on the efficiency at the interest rates when we go to pricing as to whether we retire all of those or not. Actually, rates have come down over the last couple of days, surprisingly. I think there's a flight to safety in the U.S. Debt market. And so that I guess bodes well for us, but things could change and we never really know what will happen until the day of pricing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I was
You're
gonna,
welcome.
along those lines, I was gonna ask, for a real quick update on the current climate for the bond market at this time, given the change in the market in the last, I don't know, month.
When we talked to the underwriters, I believe it was on Friday, I think they had had some sales that went out Friday morning. We talked to them Friday afternoon. They reported that their Friday morning sales went very well and that there was good demand and good pricing on those issues that they issued. And again, like I said, I kind of look at the benchmark 10-year Treasury yield. And let's see, I actually looked at it today. I actually compare it to what it was a year ago because we thought we had a pretty good rate a year ago. And a year ago, the 10-year Treasury was at 2.19. And today, the 10-year Treasury was yielding 2.16, which means that actually we would get a slightly better deal today if we were to go to market than we would a year ago. So right now, the market looks pretty good.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you very much for that update.
We just went for our airports. There was a lot of turmoil and volatility in the market when we went. I think it was the ending of January.
Mm-hmm.
It was the municipal bond market was up to its worst start. So because of the rising interest rates, kind of made the bond yield less attractive, I guess, to investors. So they were very skittish. So, our deal could have fallen apart, but we had to be flexible and had our eyes on the price since we needed the $230 million of new money to continue the momentum of the airport's CIP. So it was very rough when we did our pricing.
Well, it's definitely been a volatile market, and yes, I think a couple weeks ago, even I was going, "Oh, this doesn't look very good," but it's kind of changed rapidly. So we'll keep our eye on that, and actually the amount of refunding we do is directly related to the current rates that we can get, and that may be pulled. And yes, if the market were to be really bad, actually a year ago, I think, when we went to market, or I guess it was 2 years ago, I think the market closed the following day. So if things could happen like that, and we could be off a day, at which case we'll just have to drop back and reboot.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for the update. We do need a motion to adopt this resolution. May I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chair. This is not allowed.
This is Jade. I second.
Thank you very much. Moved by Member Anthony, seconded by Member Butai. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone in opposition, please say no or nay. All right, the resolution number 936, 2022 passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item is, and before I move to this next item, I'd like to pause for a moment. Ms. Virgo, is there any one standing by to testify?
No, there is not, Chair.
Thank you very much. All right, item number 5 is the adoption of resolution number 937, 2022. This is acceptance of another gift to the Board of Water Supply. This is from the trustees of Kamehameha Schools for the Water for Life Kawaiola Coloring Book. Chair recognizes Ms. Elliot Pahinoi.
Kathleen, you're on mute.
Sorry. We were very blessed. Kamehameha Schools reached out to us and took our coloring book and translated it into Hawaiian for us. So I'll quickly read the letter. We recommend acceptance of the proposed gift to the Board of Water Supply, City and County of Honolulu of 8,000 printed copies of the Water for Life Kawaiola coloring book in the Hawaiian language from the trustees of the estate of Bernice Pauahi Bishop, DBA Kamehameha Schools. The gift is of an estimated value of $4,800 and will support the BWS educational programs and be distributed to Hawaiian language immersion, public, private, and charter schools on Oahu. The KS Digital Education Team at Kamehameha Schools took the initiative to translate the coloring book into the Hawaiian language and print a robust supply of books for free distribution. Kamehameha Schools will assist with delivering up to 2,000 copies to targeted charter, DOE, and independent schools. The remaining copies will be available through BWS and distributed upon request. This popular coloring book shares the story of the water cycle and how drinking water travels from sources to tap, as told through the fictional character Waiola. It is the first time this educational piece is available in Hawaiian and provides a needed resource in Hawaiian language immersion programs. We greatly appreciate the participant and commitment of our community partners to help teach our youth on how to be responsible stewards of our precious water resource. And I'd like to do a big shout out to Arthur Ayu, who helped see this through and through his contacts at Kamehameha School. So thank you. Thank you, board.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of adopting resolution number 937.
Chair, we need a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. May I entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 937, 2022, please?
I so move. This is Kapua. This is Dawn, second.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been moved by Vice Chair Sproat, seconded by Member Shusik. Adoption of resolution number 937, 2022. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. All right.
Chair, if I could just say a few words, I want to express a big mahalo to Kamehameha Schools for this. This is totally unexpected, but very much appreciated. Translation to Honolulu, like mahalo.
Thank you. I echo those comments. So it's hereby
They're doing the translation.
Yes.
hereby adopted resolution number 937, 2022 noted further. That brings us to the end of our items requiring board action. We will now move into items for information. The first item for information is the financial statement and supplementary information with independent auditor's report. This is for the fiscal year that ended June 30th, 2021, and also 2020. Chair recognizes our auditors, Lawrence Chu, Principal Auditor, and Ryan Iwane, Senior Certified Public Accountant at NNK CPAs.
Thank you, Board Chair, members of the board, manager. My name is Lawrence Chu, principal with NEK CPAs Inc., and I'm the principal in charge of the financial statement audit. With me is Ryan Iwane. He's a senior manager in our audit division, and he was the engagement manager for this audit. So I'll turn it over to Ryan, and he'll cover the results of our audit. Thank you.
Thanks, Lawrence. Okay, I see the slides are coming up. Okay, thank you. So yeah, I'm Ryan Iwane. I'm the senior manager on the Board of Water Supply Engagement, and I'm gonna briefly go over a summary of the this past 2021 audit and the results of that audit. So I guess the first slide is going to be a brief description of our scope of services and some of our primary objectives. So as you can see, our first primary objective was to express an opinion on the fair presentation of the Board of Water Supply's financial statements as of and for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2021. Secondly, our objective was to express an opinion on compliance with applicable federal requirements that could have a direct and material effect on each of the Board of Water Supply's major federal programs for fiscal year 2021. In 2021, there was only one major federal program that needed to be audited, and that was the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Program, pass-through funds from the State Department of Health, which is the same program that has been audited over the past several years. So, consistent there. Our audit was performed in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America, standards applicable to financial audits contained in government auditing standards, and audit requirements of the uniform guidance. And so just going to kind of briefly go over the results of our audit. What you see here is just a brief snippet of comprehensive view of the entire results of audit. So at the top, we're pleased to report once again that we were able to issue an unmodified opinion on the Board of Water Supply's 2021 financial statements, which means that in our opinion, in all material respects, we felt that the Board of Water Supply's financial statements were fairly presented. So unmodified opinion is the best opinion that an independent auditor could provide. In connection with the audit, we did not identify any material weaknesses in internal control over financial reporting, and no significant deficiencies in internal control over financial reported were reported. Lastly, there were no instances of non-compliance that could have a direct and material effect on the Board of Water Supply's financial statements. So all in all, very good results there. With respect to the compliance portion of the single audit, we did not identify any material weaknesses in internal control over compliance, and we did not report any significant deficiencies in internal control over compliance. We were also able to issue an unmodified opinion on compliance for the Board of Water Supply's major federal programs, and there are no audit findings that are required to be reported in accordance with the uniform guidance. Next slide, please. So as I previously mentioned, for fiscal 21, the Board of Water Supply had only one program that was audited as a major federal program. And that program is, of course, the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Program passed through from the State Department of Health. And as part of identifying programs to audit, the dollar threshold used to identify Type A and Type E programs was $750,000. Lastly, the Board of Water Supply did qualify as a low-risk auditee as a result of past performance over the past 2 years. So that is also a very positive designation. There were no financial statement findings, no federal audit findings, and question costs reported in the fiscal 21 report. Does anybody have any questions? I thought I might have seen a hand, but maybe, okay. So yeah, I'll just continue on. The last slide here, as part of a financial audit performed in accordance with U.S. audit standards, we're required to communicate certain information to the Board of Water Supply Board of Directors in connection with the audit. At the conclusion, we provided that letter to you folks. I think it might have been sent back in November or December. But I'm going to just kind of give a brief overview of what that letter is supposed to contain and some of the significant points. one of the big items that is usually communicated in that letter are our views about the Board of Water Supply's significant accounting policies, sensitive accounting estimates, and financial statement disclosures. Some years this information is more useful than others. This year, there were no significant changes to accounting policies, no real significant changes to the accounting estimates used in financial reporting, and the disclosures for the most part were consistent. So, you know, no real big changes from the prior year there. We did not encounter any significant difficulties during the audit, and there were no disagreements with Board of Water Supply Management about financial accounting, reporting, auditing, or similar types of matters that arose during the audit. So that's good. Lastly, none of the misstatements detected as a result of the audit procedures performed were considered material, either individually or in the aggregate, to the Board of Water Supply's financial statements as a whole. So, I think we kind of knew this presentation would be relatively straightforward because there wasn't any issues, which is always a good thing, both for Board of Water Supply Management and for us. So that concludes our portion. Does anybody have any questions that they want to direct to Lawrence or myself?
Members, any questions? If not, I just want to thank NNK as well as the department, and especially Joe Cooper for getting us to where we are and having a clean audit. May I have a motion to? Oh, I guess we don't need a motion on this one.
It's informational.
Informational. Well, thank you very much. This is great, great news.
Chair, if I could add, I just
Yes.
appreciate the hard work of Joe and his team every year for the audit. It does take a lot of work. But also thank you, Lawrence and Ryan, for your engagement in this process. We're just happy to have you folks be our auditor. Board members, we are in the process of changing to a new auditor. And our practice is, every 5 years to kind of do a switch, just to allow for good objectivity by the auditor. So thank you, Lawrence and Ryan. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Manager. We also wanted to take this opportunity to thank, the manager, Ernest, Joe Cooper, Leanne. We're grateful for having the opportunity to have worked with you guys for all these years. Audits are tough, as Ernest mentioned, and I think the kind of support that our firm received from Board of Water Supply was top notch. I think when we enter into these contracts, we hope to work with strong accounting people, strong program people with the integrity to do things the right way, the willingness to work hard and be accountable for their role in the process. And we couldn't have asked for anything. We couldn't have asked for more as far as from the help that we got from everybody that we worked with. So we appreciate it. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you very much again. Moving on to the next item. This is the financial update for the quarter ending December 31st, 2021. Chair recognizes Mr. Joe Cooper.
Good afternoon, Chair Andaya, board members. Can you put up the slides, please? Okay, this is the financial performance for the 6 months period, July 2021 to December 2021. Our actual revenues were $133 million, which is $3 million over our budgeted revenues. This is also up about $3.5 million from last year at this time. Our operating costs were under budget at $98 million, under the budget of $107 million. And our actual net revenue subtracting the two was $34 million, which is $11 million over our budgeted net revenue of $23 million. I do like to remind that this is our operating budget. Net revenues are also used to fund emergency operations and the pay-go portion of our CIP budget. The major cost drivers, as always, personnel services was $21 million, which was under budget by about 18% due to vacancies. Our material services and supplies, which includes repairs, was $32 million or about $6 million under budget. The equipment was $200,000, which was $100,000 under budget. Debt service was almost $15 million, which was pretty much on budget. This is up slightly from last year. And I guess, yeah, I'll talk about debt service a little more on a later slide. And then utilities was under budget by about $2 million at $13 million. Next slide.
Actually, Joe, that was utilities was over budget, right?
Yes,
I'm
sorry. Yes, utilities was over budget. My notes read wrong. Yes, was over budget by almost $2 million. The next slide is presented by the ESO and budget office and to break down the specific variances for each division. And they are available here if you have any questions on those specific balances.
Members, any questions? I do want to ask about the utilities budget. Is it are the rates going up or is the usage? What's driving the?
I believe it is. I don't know. I'll have to look into that. My gut feeling is that it was the rates were going up, but I'll confer with water systems or water operations to find out the answer to that.
Okay, and then while you're at it, there's also an overage on the retirement system contribution. Just trying to understand what what causes that.
The retirement contributions.
That's under debt service.
So I can look into that too. Retirement contributions, I believe that is probably the lagging bill that they send us at the end of the year. But I will look into both of those and get you an answer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Joe.
This looks at the different operating costs as a percentage of total operating costs. Our largest area is material supplies and services, which represents 32 or 33% of our costs at about $33 million. The next largest area of expenses is fixed costs, which represents about 31% of our total cost or $30 million. The third area is personnel services at about 21%. And then we get to debt service at about 15% or just under $15 million. And to look up Nahalehu's question earlier, we are forecasting over the next 5 years of probably borrowing in either bond or SRF loans over $600 million. And currently this $15 million is expected to grow over the next 5 years. Probably our net debt service is expected to be $47 million. So it should more than double as we increase our leverage on this. We are pursuing a lot of other financial activities to help lower these costs. One of them is we are working on securing a consultant to help us apply for a WIFIA loan. A WIFIA allows us a lot of flexibility. It's a federal program that allows us a lot of flexibility in managing our debt and at extremely low interest rates, and also to help delay or defer a lot of the interest costs. So we'll be doing that, and that could dramatically change some of the debt service projections. However, one of the issues that the rating agencies look at when we issue bonds is our debt service coverage ratio, because obviously over the next 5 years we expect with inflation that our net revenues should also be increasing. Currently our debt service coverage is about 3.5, which means that our net revenue is 3.5 times our debt service coverage. Even with the additional borrowing and debt service that we expect to incur over the next 5 years, our debt service coverage ratio in 2026 is expected to be 2.5 times, so that we still have adequate revenues and net revenue to cover our expected debt. These are key. The debt service coverage ratio is a key ratio that the rating agencies and the bond investors look at when our bonds go to market. Are there any questions regarding our debt service plans? Okay. Hearing none, next slide, please. This is our operating budget, operating costs, actual compared to budget. And again, we can see that personnel, supplies, materials, and services, the two bars on the left are under budget. Equipment is not noticeable in the middle, but is basically under budget, just a fraction. Debt service is on budget, and then fixed cost, as was noted earlier, is about 11% over budget. Next slide, please. This graph shows our operating costs on a monthly basis and a year-to-date basis. Year-to-date, our operating costs are under budget by about 7.8%. There were some variances in July, which was primarily due to $8 million in professional service contracts. And then the variances for personnel and timing account for the other positive variances in the latter half of the year. Next slide, please. And again, we also look at our revenue collections on a monthly and year-to-date basis. Year-to-date, our revenues are 2.3% over budget. The variances in August, September, and November, our timing variance is mostly due to the non-residential or commercial and industrial customers whose meters aren't read exactly on the monthly schedule that residential meters are read. Next slide. That concludes my presentation. Are there any other questions or comments?
I have a question for Mr. Cooper.
Yes.
Hi, Joel. Thank you so much for this update. I had a question. I see we're running under budget right now, which is great, but I just wanted to ask for your mana'o, given the ongoing conflict or war with Russia and the fact that so much of our crude oil comes from there. And the rising energy costs. I just wanted to ask for your kind of thoughts about those impacts on our operations, given especially that we were already over budget for electrical.
Yeah, that's the potential issue. Actually, yes, and it's something we haven't worried about the last probably 5 or 6 years, because energy costs have been really low. And so yes, I think that will have an impact on our budgets going forward. Of course, we don't really know what the conflict in Europe will bring and how that will affect us. But I think that just like COVID, it's probably brought us to a lot of realities that we have to face. And energy supply is certainly one of them. And I think we are anticipating that our costs may go up. As bittersweet as this sounds, if we have to implement mandatory conservations, that might actually help us control some of our energy costs. And like I said, I don't really like that because that also restricts our revenue. But I guess, you know, the good part to this, if there is a good part, is that we are doing a cost of service study this year, and we will be able to factor in rising energy prices along with the different issues, both whether it's conservation or trying to find new sources or generate new sources to deal with those problems. We will be able to incorporate some of those ideas into our cost of service study, which will help us, you know, revise our projections going forward over the next several years. And I anticipate that we will be coming back to the board and sharing that with you, and sharing some of the we may have to make some hard decisions about how to approach and how to allocate funding going forward, how to allocate rates going forward in the light of those issues that we're facing. So I don't really have any real projections until we get some more solid numbers that we can present to you.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Joe, quick question.
Yes.
On your personnel, you budgeted 25.7 and you actual 20. Is that due to the unfilled positions?
Yes.
Could that be, is that contribute to the unfilled positions?
Yes, that's due to unfilled positions.
Okay.
And so it's roughly about what we were actually, we were at $22 million last year. So I think we've had some, you know, perhaps struggling with keeping our positions filled. But yes, the vacancies are the cause of the variance in personnel.
I have a question. I'm wondering if we're tracking any added expenses that were, and I know it's hard to quantify, but regarding the Red Hill situation, I'm almost certain that we're incurring extra costs. I'm wondering if there's any way to kind of estimate or quantify that.
Yeah, Joe, go ahead.
Well, we do have an account where we're accumulating actual direct costs related to Red Hill. I believe those are mostly associated with the extra testing requirements, or the extra testing that we're doing on those test wells. And I'm not sure of the amount off the top of my head of that, although I know I did just look at it, and I might be able to find it later in this
You can send it to
presentation.
us. Maybe send it to us later.
We'll send it to you later.
I can send it, because I know that actually came up, I think, as we were preparing for the bond rating presentations, and I think when I look through those notes that I'll be able to give you a number.
Yeah.
But again, that's something we're not really tracking, you know, our internal personnel costs. We're not tracking Ernie's time that he spends talking to the media.
We are tracking staff costs, but positions like myself, you know, we're salaried, so we don't get it. If it takes 100 hours of overtime.
So we can work it to death.
Unfortunately, yes.
That wouldn't be in our interest.
Hopefully that doesn't occur, Max.
Yeah.
But,
Well, I guess to follow up on the personnel, along those notes, is there any overtime involved, or the?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, I haven't seen the numbers, but I'm guessing there may be some overtime involved. But you know, this is only the beginning of the crisis, which is about, now we're getting to the third month. But we are tracking costs. It's my instructions to my staff. Our team here is track costs for potential cost recovery.
Okay. Well, I guess what I'm leading up to is that I know it's good that we're under budget on the personnel, but because of the vacancies, how much, how much overtime are we using to cover up, you know, to fill in?
Well, having, yeah, you know, definitely that is one of the tools. You know, when you don't have enough people to do everything, you have a lot of vacancy. Then there tends to be overtime used to fill the gaps, especially on critical services.
Yeah, well, what I'm getting at is that's not bad, you know, you're on budget even if you have to backfill overtime to catch up and so forth, so. I mean,
Yeah.
we're not too bad at under budget at five million.
Yeah, we're trying to be more careful on how we budget for personnel.
Okay,
To also be realistic on how quickly we might be able to fill the positions.
Yeah.
Given the challenges, you know, that we all face.
okay.
Thank you.
No more questions from me, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions for Mr. Cooper? Okay, hearing none, thank you very much, Mr. Cooper.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, our next item on the agenda is the status update of groundwater levels at all index stations.
Chair, number 3.
Oh, I forgot. Okay. Number 3 is Capital Improvement Program, or CIP, quarterly update. Chair recognizes Mr. Jason Takaki.
Yes, good afternoon, and aloha, Chair Andaya and board members. This is the quarterly report on the capital improvement program for all divisions and is for the quarter ending December 31st, 2021. So in the second quarter of the current FY22, 8 construction contracts were awarded, totaling just under $2.4 million. There were 16 contract completions reported in the second quarter. And right below that, in the left-hand corner, you see the ongoing projects are tabulated there. And this is a snapshot also as of December 31st, 2021. There were 247 ongoing design contracts and 166 ongoing construction projects. Together, they total over $476 million of work in progress. Now, you may wonder why there are far more design contracts, and that's because the design contracts include non-construction studies, as well as all of our design contracts that are kept open throughout the construction duration, so our consultants can provide services during construction. Now, if we go to the next page, this is the details of the awards and the completions for the second quarter. And then the next page, please. And this graph has been updated to include the FY22 second quarter. The current fiscal year, which is shown in black at the bottom, is identical to last year's fiscal year 2021, which is shown in green. So cumulative encumbrances through 2 quarters total just over 2% of the total $150 million FY22 CIP. And that is my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Members, any questions?
Mr. Chair, this is Na'alahu. Just one question.
Sure.
Jason, can you go back to the first slide?
Sure.
You know, with the cumulative numbers of these is pretty staggering. Just in terms of the number of balls up in the air that you folks have, both with design and construction. And maybe just to help us understand what some of the effects of the staffing shortages are, how many projects would one engineer be tracking as typically as these projects move forward?
That's a very good question. We did a staffing study a few years ago. I think it came out to maybe upwards of 30 contracts in various stages though. And the thing is, the engineers would also count their projects while they're in construction, although they'll have little to do with the construction except to answer requests for information, things like that. These are also the number of construction contracts shown is construction contracts, and they're not everyone's not digging right now. These are various stages of construction. It includes contracts that have not even started yet. Notice to proceed hasn't been given, or they haven't started breaking ground yet. but also there's some older contracts that we're just waiting to finish up as built contract closing documents. So yeah, the numbers are large, but the thing is that it's various stages of both design and construction. So it's very hard to get a clear picture really. But yeah, as far as staffing shortages though, our guys have been working very hard despite the shortcomings on staffing to get their projects out. And if you saw from the very last graph, they have been very successful in getting their projects completed and supporting our inspectors and construction engineers during construction. We are, as the capital improvement program continues to increase, continuing to recruit. We have been, I will say, very successful in the last couple of months getting some entry-level engineers, and we have some good candidates that we're interviewing right now. And it's partially because of the economy, it's partially because of the push by the city to do more hiring, and it's also our own efforts to just get out there, promote the jobs we have available, telling them what we do and asking people to join us. We have had also, as Manager Lau will tell you, had some very positive responses when he gave a "why don't you join us" little snippet at the end of his presentation on Red Hill, because it's people like what the Board of Water Supply has done and are interested in helping out. So yeah, all things together, you're right, it is a concern, but we have been addressing it so far, and actually the future is looking bright.
Thanks so much for that update, Jason. I really appreciate everything that you shared, and thank you so much for the hard work. Please thank the rest of the gang over there for everything that they're doing.
Thank you.
One other thing that I think might be useful over time, and maybe we've seen it in other board docs, is just to get a sense of like what the duration is from like inception at the board level to say, yep, these are the projects we want to work on in CIP, all the way through to finish construction for various sizes of projects. I think that it's helpful to understand that these are multi-year. They could sit in design for a long time, and then in terms of permitting and everything else, these things can take a long while, and so they may pile up. But to your good point, that they're not in, they're all in various stages of production. So some of them may not have active things that need to be worked on.
And yes, you're right. That's come up before. We did look at it. The problem is that just like the projects are in different phases of their life, so are the lives different for each of the contracts and the projects. We have some very small projects, just a pump replacement. We'll just quickly go in, finish it up in a very short amount of time. We have much more complex projects where we'll build a new station, or even right here at Barra Canyon, right outside my door, we have a brand new, fairly new emergency generator system that's taken years to put into, get to completion. But this is a major undertaking that can power not just the pump station, but also the engineering building in the event of a loss of power. And so it was very difficult looking at the many contracts we have, which obviously we have quite a few ongoing, but they're so different. And so that was the challenge we had with that. Trying to make any generalization on contract durations.
Thank you so much.
Chair, I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Jason, hi. Every year we have this discussion, and I just want to have it again a little bit. I can understand construction contracts overlapping years and having a hard time estimating when they're completed, et cetera. But on awards is awards. That happens on a day. And we have budgeted $127 million in awards, and in half the year, we've given out $3 million. And I understand that the back half of the fiscal year is when most of the awards take place. But that seems like a much larger gap than we've had in the past years. Am I correct? And if so, are you worried at all about us meeting those budgeted projections?
I'm sorry, I missed the last part of that. What was your question?
Are you worried about us meeting the budgeted? I guess I'm asking you to manage our expectations a little bit here. Are we gonna get close to $127 million in contracts awarded for construction?
Well, I can only speak for the capital projects division because the CIP, this is a total CIP, so it's not just capital projects. For us, we are committed to getting all of our projects out. We are being hampered this year, particularly because of a number of bid protests or contract award protests that we received last fiscal year and have been working through those, as well as making sure our projects that we're putting together for this current fiscal year don't face the same exposures. And so that's been holding up our advertisements. We are getting ready to start advertising all of our contracts. And yes, we are all of our projects are on schedule as far as where we are in the design phase and where we need to be in order to put a project out on the street.
Thank you. How much of that line does not belong to you? 127,260,000.
I can pull that up, I think, fairly quickly. I know there is the Kalaeloa desal, which is a 17 million. I know where it is. Sorry, hold on just a minute.
How do we distinguish between a CIP project and a capital project? What is it there?
The CIP includes projects in all of the different divisions, not only a capital projects division. The bulk of it is with capital projects.
Yeah, no
division.
question. The bulk is with capital projects.
But there are some other divisions that have other CIP projects.
This was the early breakdown. I think it might have changed a little, but I think of the 150, 20, it's like about 30 million is from other divisions.
Okay. Well, you answered my most important question, which is basically, are we gonna be able to get out? And you said everything's on time and you expect to get out. So that's
I think
really,
it looks good right now, yes.
okay. Thank you.
Members, any further questions? If not, I have a few. Jason, can you comment on the effect, if any, on of supply chain disruptions as far as the relative cost of our projects?
Yeah, I can say, certainly I can share some comments. There definitely is a concern about material shortages as well as shipping delays. And the third, of course, is the reemergence of inflation. So all of these coming together to really escalate the costs. For our ongoing projects, we are doing the best we can to continue to move those forward. We did budget additional funds in FY22, the current fiscal year, as we do every year, the construction cost index account, which is for overages, so bids that come in higher than the budgeted amount. And in fact, when we propose the upcoming FY23 CIP, we look to increase that even more. And this really, the construction cost index account was first put into the CIP budget right after the economic downturn and the rebound after that. So a few years ago, And so, but we had decreased the amount in there, but we're gonna try and increase it a little bit more so that we will be able to afford the projects that we want to put out.
I see. So you mentioned construction cost index. Is that a algorithm or some other measure of relative cost of construction?
Yeah, it's basically a percentage of the construction budget for the fiscal year.
Interesting.
But Jason, it's not tied to any kind of construction cost index like the ENR index or anything
No,
else?
it's not. It was first envisioned based on the consumer price index, and that's where we got the first number. We decreased it after that when there was no inflation. And in fact, there were no, we weren't really using it, but we did use it more last year, and we anticipate we may need to use it more this year. But yeah, no, it's not tied to an economic index, no.
Okay. Yeah, because in addition to supply chain disruptions, you're gonna have inflation overall, you know, from a labor standpoint, from a just a construction standpoint. So I'd be interested in getting a better handle on that. So maybe we'll talk offline.
Okay,
Okay.
can do.
All right, members, any further questions for Mr. Takaki? If not, thank you very much for the report.
Okay, thank you.
Next item is number 4, status update of groundwater levels at all index stations. Chair recognizes Mr. Barry Usagawa.
Well, Mr. Chair, members, as of January, we have 3 aquifer index stations in low groundwater conditions. They're Kaimaki, Honolulu, and Wailua. In caution, this is the same status as last month. The production in January was low, 124 million gallons per day. In terms of the rainfall index, for January, it was slightly over normal. And the 5-month was 120% of normal because we had a high amount of rainfall in December. But, you know, through most of January and February, we've had abnormally dry conditions. Although National Weather Service is still forecasting above normal for February, we didn't really see it. And so even the seasonal forecast, which was done several months ago, was above normal precipitation through winter and spring. There was the La Nina condition. It just shows that the forecasting weather is not really an exact science. I know they've told me that La Nina usually results in a above normal rainfall winter, but there are times historically where it was dry. So we had a ton of rain in December, not much in January and February. And we'll see how the rest of the spring goes. But as far as the head levels, they're still elevated. And the 5-month moving average for production is on the lower side. So if you could go to the last slide, or the bottom of the page, please, where I can show you the graphs of rainfall. Go up, one more up.
Right there.
So you can see the rainfall here in December. We had 276% of normal, slightly over normal in January. I expect February to be below normal, but you see the 5-month moving average, that squiggly line is above normal. So that big rainfall we had in December skews the trend a bit. But when that line is above the red line, above normal, we're usually in good shape. If it gets below the red line, it's how low does it get? So you can see back in 2020, in August through October, August through November, in fact, December. So from August to December, we're 60% below normal rainfall. That kind of sustains, 5 months below, that low below normal rainfall. That's when you start to see the head levels depressed. So we'll continue to look at that and see how the rest of the year shapes up. But that's the snapshot at this point. So with that, and then can you go down to the production, please? The last slide. So the blue is the 2021. The gray is the 5-year monthly average. The green at 124 is below that 5-month. I expect the pumpage in February to be at or perhaps above the 5-month moving average, but we'll see. It's really dependent on rainfall, and that's really a snapshot look. But so that's the status of our water resources up to this point, and available for any questions.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yep, go ahead.
Hi, Barry.
Hi. Well,
Thank you so much for your update. I had a couple questions because I got to tell you, I'm kind of worried because it's been so dry everywhere. I mean, what we're seeing on Maui, on Molokai, and so many different places, historic lows is in some of the gauges. And so I guess I'm thinking about our conditions, and especially given, we had great rain in December, but it's been dry for the last couple of months, and we'll see. You never know what's going to happen in March and April here. But I guess I wanted to ask a couple things. One, about whether or not you folks have done calculations for the summer to see kind of what our demand might be. And then two, also wondering, the head levels look good, but I guess to me, Halava Shaft has been offline. And so I'm wondering how much of that is actually influencing the head levels as well.
yeah, so it's hard for us to actually tell what's going to happen going forward. We are concerned about the summer max day demand, especially in the metro area because of Halava Shaft being offline, right? The head levels in Halava Shaft are really, really good. They went up 4.5 feet because we shut them down for a couple months, right? So that part of Waimalu is doing great, but we don't, do we have enough source capacity to compensate? And right now we're in that evaluation process right now. So it covers several different strategies. One is the compensatory pump operations to make up for that difference, and our water systems operations have been doing a great job meeting the current demand. But when it starts to get, you can see how much this graph goes up, how production goes up in the summer. Do we have enough? And so we're evaluating that. We are looking at ramping up conservation messaging and even updating our water shortage plan to identify a framework on when certain measures or certain actions have to kick in. So conservation is a big deal. And then the last piece is getting the additional infrastructure projects funded in the FY23 CIP. They include additional well projects. We're drilling a lot of wells, but those wells take several years from drilling to actual pump station. There are other projects that improve our interconnectivity between other systems that have a lot of unused pumping capacity, like in Pro City. How do we get Pro City water into the metro? So there are connectivity type those projects to make those happen. We can drop some. We're looking at moving Waipahu water into town, and that's possible now. So we are evaluating, and operations will probably put that into effect in the next month or two. And then we have projects that are under repair, source projects that need to be finished before summer. So it's a multi-pronged type of approach there.
Yes, Kopo, we don't have anything definite yet. We're still, I am encouraging the team to move quickly on this. So yeah, we always kind of hit on I think the general areas that we're looking at very closely.
I thank you both Ernie and Barry. I have a couple follow-up questions. I guess one, I'm wondering when we'll know, whether we'll have enough water this summer. And I guess the second thing is also, I'm so glad that we have a unified system here on Oahu and we can actually move water around. If we were any other county, the Red Hill situation would make things even more catastrophic. But I guess what I'm wondering is whether there's going to be permitting amendments or other things that we're going to need in order to adjust, or whether we'll be able to pump within our existing water use permits in order to make things happen. I'm just thinking timetables of like what we're going to have to do and planning to be ready for the summer.
Yeah, definitely. We really are working hard to try to come up with some numbers. Of course, the weather conditions in the summer is going to be the biggest driver because water usage really peaks depending on how hot and how dry things are and for how long. So that's kind of the big unknown. Is the summer going to be extremely dry? Will we get the spring rains that help to reduce demand and build up storage in the underground aquifers? But yeah, we want to come back to the board as soon as possible. But I want to make sure that when we come to the board, we'll have solid information and the board can understand the options and the efforts on also water conservation, because it's a supply issue, but it's also a demand issue, how we can get the kokua of our customers in reducing the demand to fit within the available supply. And on your point about the interconnectivity of the system, I'll just say, starting with the first manager, Fred Ort, in 1929, and what they did to run large pipelines and bring water from Pearl Harbor into Honolulu. We are very fortunate to have some of the system interconnectivity that we have right now, because I used to manage Kauai Department of Water, and those are all standalone small systems, maybe depending only 2 wells for the whole system. So that a situation like this would have been a lot more catastrophic. I'm not downplaying, though, that it will be a challenging time for all of us as we head into summer. But we'll come back to the board as soon as possible. Once we have all I think I feel confident with the information that it's solid.
Yeah, we're trying to see if we can put it on the agenda maybe next month.
Yeah, we're trying to shoot for that, but we want to make sure when we come to the board, we're well prepared to answer the board's questions.
Is one of the options that you're looking at, given that the Halava heads are 5 feet higher, redrawing, opening up the Halava shaft?
No, that is not an option at this point. The contamination underground, the nature and extent of the contamination is still a big concern, because we cannot, you see what happened to the Navy's customers where they pumped inadvertently, I don't think it was on purpose, pumped contaminated water into their water system, contaminated with fuel. We cannot allow that to happen to our broader, more complex Honolulu water system.
Okay, so that's off the table.
Yeah, the scenarios I think we're developing are going to be not relying upon the 3 wells that are currently shut down, and they're shut down for good reason. So we're going to have to look at, like what Barry mentioned, is new source development, exploratory wells to be drilled in locations that would not be impacted by fuel contamination that may emanate from the Red Hill facility. And the longer term storage, if the Navy decides to keep fuel there stored for a longer term at Red Hill, creates a tremendous risk to the ongoing risk to the resource. So Kapua, also the issue of, I think, some kind of regulatory approach, that's still a lot of evaluation. And I think when we come back to the board, we are prepared to discuss that. But also, I think the decisions that are made in that area should be something that definitely involves this board. And it's done very transparently for our community.
Thank you.
Two things to add to that. we are in, we've had discussions with the Water Commission, so those are ongoing. The National Weather Service usually does their next seasonal outlook for summer, and that's coming in the next couple of months. So we'll see what their forecast would be, and that would be another helpful guidance to look at. So thanks.
Okay, any further questions?
I just have a related question. This is Dawn. The Water Conservation Week, when is that supposed to happen? Just curious.
I believe that's in April.
April.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then also remember, hurricane season starts in June.
June, yeah.
Hey, Ernie and Barry, I just have a question, and I know that we're not there yet because we're still waiting to understand more about what data the Navy can give about the extent of the contamination in the aquifer, and therefore, the fate, if you will, of Halava Shaft. But if we were to have to develop something that was 12 or 15 million gallons a day of pumpage somewhere else, like start to finish, like starting with what Jason was talking about earlier, to like turn it on and it's actually pulling water up. First question is, when was the last time we developed something that large? And in today's kind of availability of resources, as well as the different layers of protections, whether it's permitting or just the EIS or the other different components that are necessary to develop that kind of water, how long would it take to then have something that would replace Halava Shaft?
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to ask Barry to go ahead with the response. I'll just add on. Barry?
The source that we're working on currently is as big as Halava Shaft. It's called Eva Shaft. And I've been working on that for a couple of years. There's some challenges there where, because of the shaft's proximity to Honolulu stream. So we've retooled that scope and drilling wells. And those wells will be drilled next fiscal year. But it's been, rare do you see a source of 10 MGD. Most of the ones we did in the past were in the 3 to 4 MGD range. And so Kunia 4 is one that is about 3 that we are also drilling next fiscal year. But you're right, the challenges on, from actually the planning to actually when water's in the system could be 5 to 7 years. Of course, we're going to expedite it as much as we can. The interconnectivity is, as you folks have pointed out, is very beneficial. So that's, and I'd like to also add that we have launched a commercial prescriptive conservation program, a soft launch for that. And we are in discussions right now on a conservation program in partnership with the Hawaii Community Foundation to focus conservation to tourists, because our visitors use a lot, and that's been in the front of mind lately with the Hawaii Tourism Authority, Hawaiian Airlines, and responsible tourism. So we're working on those types of programs concurrently with all of the infrastructure and planning. So just wanted to add that. Ernie, anything to add?
Yeah, no, Aleku, good question. Thank you, Barry. I agree with Barry. It's when we develop a new source, it's really also contingent about location. So the sites that we're looking at, some of the immediate sites are where we have existing BWS facilities, or maybe it's city-owned land already. So the issues with acquiring landowner approval, acquiring rights of entry or consents of entry can be reduced. And there's some existing infrastructure nearby. So locations of wells that are close to BWS existing pipes and system makes it a lot faster to try to incorporate that water into our system. But Barry's right. New wells source development takes years. So it is something that doesn't occur overnight, unfortunately. But excellent question.
I have a related question to that. So Barry, is that Eva Shaft EP, what is that, 15, 16? Different than that? Same Eva Shaft?
That's the one. That's the one, EP 15, 16. Yeah.
Okay. So isn't that dropped already though? And wasn't that being pumped by Campbell for years?
Yes.
Okay, so but
And-
you folks are putting in new pumps or re-drilling or what?
There's a concern about the stream seeping in, so there's a potential, because it's seeping into the aquifer. It was good for irrigation, right? Is it good for drinking?
Right.
So that's the challenge. So
Okay, well, that's hopeful because that would be a lot faster than what I was thinking as far as development from a completely new source. I guess to the degree that you could address the stream seeping stuff.
yeah, so that is connected to the JC treatment plant is already built. The connecting pipeline, the power is there. We just now we're looking at wells instead because now it less susceptible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
that should be faster.
Yeah, thank you. So a related question though, as we're thinking about this for me, especially in the context of Red Hill that's kind of overshadowing how we move forward. And I guess part of what I'm thinking is we're now operating in the reality where these three wells are down and we don't know if we'll ever be able to bring them back online, at least for the near future. But until we have more information on the plume, we may have to also shut down other wells. And so that's a big concern for me, because I wonder about what the summer is going to be like now, just trying to manage without Halava, let alone, if we have other information. So, do you folks have any more information on that and how that will impact sort of resource and supply on a going forward basis?
I know the board approved some Sentinel monitor wells a month or two ago, and I believe, Ernie, that we've planning additional ones to understand that better.
Right. Also, we're informed by the Department of Health and EPA that they're directing the Navy to actually drill up to about 13 different monitor test wells in Halava Valley to try to help characterize where contamination might be moving in the underground aquifer. And they want to also look at deeper into the underground aquifer because something called plume diving, where over time, as you get further away from the source of contamination, in this case, the Red Hill facility, the contamination might actually not just reside near the upper limits of the aquifer, but actually start to spread vertically down deeper into the aquifer as it moves further away. So again, it's vitally important that the Navy immediately empty out the fuel tanks and the pipelines and never bring it back. Because the longer that exists there, the source of contamination, the 180 million or so gallons that they have right now of diesel and jet fuel, if there's a large leak, then Kapua, the concern would be, could it spread farther? Could it impact more wells, travel westward, longer distance? We shared the particle track model, and right now, directly Halava Shaft, Halava well, IA well, is in the target zone of fuel leaks out of the Red Hill facility. But say if the leaks are even larger scale at different locations in the facility and the pipelines, along 3.5 miles of pipeline that connects the tanks to Pearl Harbor. Not only the 20 fuel tanks, so the 18 that are in use, but also the miles of steel pipeline carrying fuel back and forth 100 feet above the aquifer.
Ernie, and maybe this is a question that we leave for executive session, but I'm just curious as to whether or not you have any more data on the existing test wells that the Navy has in service, and whether or not you've seen anything. I think the last hard data we saw was from April and May
Yeah,
at the last meeting.
Uh,
Anything new?
I can't answer that question. That data should be public information. Um, if Erwin Kawata's on the phone call right now on the meeting, Erwin, can you share what's the latest data set that we have regarding the Navy's monitor wells that were developed, installed at Red Hill and around it? Is Erwin, Dee, can you check and see if Erwin is on the discussion?
You know, I mean, just to characterize it, we have 5 million gallons a day being pumped into a stream at Red Hill, and I haven't seen any of the data as to whether or not that fuel contamination is still in that water.
Yeah, in terms of that stuff, I don't think we've received any data, but I just noticed that Erwin Kawata, head of our water quality division, has joined the meeting. Erwin, go ahead.
Hello. Sorry for the delay. I was on the Vimeo site. But in response to your question, the Navy has been collecting some additional data from their monitor wells that's within the Red Hill property itself. And based on discussions that we've been information we've been getting from their aquifer recovery working group meetings, the data seems to indicate elevated levels of petroleum compared to historical levels in the monitor wells on the northwest side of the tanks. So if you kind of think about where the tanks are associated, it's on that side of the tanks between the facility itself and Halava Shaft. Certainly Department of Health and EPA are quite concerned about those levels. They are, in general, approximately 10 to 100 times greater than historical values. So that's number one. They're also noticing increased petroleum values, of course, in the monitor wells closer to Red Hill Shaft as compared to historical values. So all of those data, what's currently driving is the additional installation of added monitor wells outside of the property on the northwest side between the facility itself and Halava Shaft. So you're looking at areas in the industrial park, Halava Industrial Park, over in the quarry area, which is about, midway between, the tanks themselves and where Halava Shaft is located. So that's where the current status is. The Navy continues to collect the groundwater data. Department of Health and EPA are reviewing that information. We certainly have requested some of that data, but haven't actually gotten or received any kind of hard copies yet. So this Aquifer Recovery Group meeting occurs twice a week, and we attend those meetings to try to stay informed with respect to the latest information.
Thanks so much, Erwin, for the update. Really appreciate it.
Sure.
Erwin, this is Kapua. I have a follow-up question.
Sure.
Given that we have some information now, although your actual information request hasn't been, the data hasn't been given to you directly. I'm wondering whether, that gives us some information on the size of the plume, right? It's not complete, but it's a little bit, it's more info than we had before. And it's not very helpful because it's on the side moving towards Lava Shaft. Based on that information, I realize that, right now this is speculative, but do you have any idea whether the impacts would go beyond the 3 wells that we currently have shut down?
Yeah, that is the question. What the data seems to indicate are a couple of things. Number one is that the amount of petroleum within the vadal zone or in the unsaturated rock underneath the tanks is much greater than it has been compared to historical information. The Navy continues to see petroleum releases from the Vado zone into Red Hill Shaft. They continue to see that, and they're continuing to try to treat that and to remove as much as they can, but they're having an extensive amount of challenges trying to do that. There's a lot of it that appears to be also adhered to the rocks. They're also, especially in the area of where the Red Hill Shaft is, in the lower portion of the tank. So with respect to the plume, it's really difficult at this point to kind of imagine the size and the extent. That's where, you know, the regulatory agencies want the Navy to install additional monitor wells to get that more data. But the areas that they're trying to get these monitor wells, especially the quarry area and the industrial park, as you know, the quarry is an active place. There's a lot of concern about where you could put it and how it's going to disrupt the quarry operations. And within the Halava Industrial Park, and it's extremely congested there as well. There are very few places that you could actually try to install a monitor well. It's probably going to end up being in something, maybe the sidewalk or the public right of way kind of an area. Having said that, there is a lot of effort. There have been 8 sites that have been identified as the most desired and priority sites to try to get these monitor wells in there so that they can get some information to at least understand, has it gone past the point, the property boundary, and how far it has gone past that property. But as far as the data is concerned with respect to the existing monitor wells within the property itself, the regulatory agencies are, from the discussions, appear very concerned about the levels that are being detected.
Thank you, Erwin. I'm sorry, but I have one more question about the Vado zone.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's very troubling that the Vado zone is even more saturated than we realize. And you mentioned the petroleum releases are continuing into the Red Hill Shaft. I know early on that the Navy had sent divers into the aquifer itself, and at that time they were seeing releases into the aquifer. Has there been any more information on that? Are they still sending the divers in? And do we know if it's still basically dripping into our water supply? Because to me, that's, you know, the spill is one thing, but the concern for me is the ongoing contamination that's occurring. And so do we have any more information of that, either with respect to the Red Hill Shaft or to the aquifer itself?
To our knowledge, the divers going into Red Hill Shaft has been discontinued. The efforts to try to remove any kind of free product that's in there, especially from the subsurface rocks, have been very marginal to poor at best in terms of actual recovery itself. So that has been discontinued. With respect to where they are and how much, the Navy has drilled these very small diameter piezo type of boreholes close to the Red Hill Shaft and toward the lower part of the tunnel, where they're trying to get some idea as to how much is present based on just soil vapor or, you know, vapor being extracted. And they've done some mapping, if you will, and they've shared some of that information. And it appears that much of the, I guess, contamination from the Vado zone into Red Hill Shaft is occurring in that section of the lower access tunnel closest to the shaft and by the last set of tanks, and as opposed to other areas. But the that amount that's entering into the waters is quite is very, very noticeable in terms of the mapping. They can actually see it, they said. They can actually see it, you know, dripping from the rocks into the water.
So a couple of kind of related to your question about divers going in. This should be confirmed with the Navy, but I think since they're pumping to try to pump to waste and treat, I don't believe divers are going then into the sump area of the shaft.
Thanks to both of you. Very helpful.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, members, any further questions? We're still on the water main repair report.
No, Chair, we were on number 4.
I'm sorry, status of groundwater levels. Are there any more questions on that?
No.
Okay, hearing none, thank you very much. I'm sure we're gonna talk about the other issues more. If you have any questions, just call Ernie offline.
Yeah, please give me a call anytime.
Okay, last one for items for information. This is the water main repair report for January 2022. Chair recognizes Mr. Jason Nikaido.
Hey, good afternoon, Chair Andaya and board members. The following is the water main repair report for January. In January, we had 31 main breaks, which was comparable to the previous years, and which brings us to a year-to-date total of 237 main breaks. The second, go back up. In the bottom graph, you see that the trending, and it's trending closely to previous years. Next page, please. And here's a list of all the main breaks that we had in January, and most of them were on the smaller diameter side of anywhere from 4 to 8 inches. Okay, next slide. And this page summarizes our leak detection efforts for January. We investigated 47 points of interest, bringing our year-to-date total for 312. And from those 47 POIs we investigated, we found 88 leaks. 71 of those were coupling leaks, and 2 of them were mainline leaks. And that brought us to a total of 464 leaks found so far this fiscal year. That completes the report for this month, but I also want to add kind of as an additional strategy for mitigating the potential summer demand deficiency. We are increasing our leak detection efforts and kind of focusing on park use, irrigation, large users to kind of get a more immediate impact in reducing the summer demand. So that concludes my report. Available for any questions.
Members, any questions? Hearing none, we are going to, I can enter. Thank you very much for the report, Jason.
Thanks, Jason.
Let's see, can we have a motion? We do have executive session today. Can we have a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved.
Okay, moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I think it's moved by member Sword, and then seconded by, I believe that was Vice Chair Spark.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, one more time. All those opposed say nay. All right, we are, let's prepare for executive session. Thank you very much. We stand in short recess. I think we left off, I had announced a decision or a motion that was passed in executive session relating to the Wahiwa Water Systems Improvement Project. And Madam Secretary was about to note for the record the votes.
Chair Andaya, aye. Vice Chair Capulastro, aye. Board Member Ray Soon, aye. Board Member Matt Sword, absent. Board Member Naalehu Anthony, aye. Board Member Jay Putai, aye. Board Member Don Subject, aye. Chair, that is 6 ayes, 1 absent.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's note that for the record. Is there any further business before the board? If not, a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Okay,
Second?
moved by member Shusek and Vice Chair Sproat, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All those opposed say nay. All right, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And aloha.